Right now, we've got our special guest coming up. Going to be interviewed by the person who put the show together 30 years ago. Please welcome Kay Lips and Charlie Smith. Let's give them a big round of applause. Come on, let's make some noise.
Thank you, Irv. How about a big round of applause for Irv Cass?
Testing, testing.
You know he was the very first winner of our very first contest.
Good choice.
30 years ago, we were planning how to put this together. And if some of you, how many have been here since the beginning? Anybody? A few people. But we were thinking of things, and we had a car show back then out in the park. And
Spaghetti dinner, too, I heard.
What?
A spaghetti dinner?
Yeah. And in our planning sessions, I said, you know, there's a lot of people that like Elvis impersonators. Maybe we should have a little contest. So we had it over at it was a Holiday Inn at the time at the Best Western, and did it to tracks. And my husband was on the door because there was a cover charge. And I was back with the guys, getting them ready, and all of a sudden, one of the Special Olympics people came and said, Kay, Paul needs you right now. I said, okay, so I went. He said, Kay, it's full up. We can't put any more people in here because of fire code, and these women are about to rip my head off. So I thought, maybe we should have a little bigger Elvis impersonator contest. So that's how it started. We had one for many years until Graceland, of course, came into the tribute artist world, and they do such a big service to the memory of Elvis Presley because they perform the music live, and that's what's great about it, you know.
True.
So what I want Charlie to tell us about is give us a little history about you and how you happen to know Tom Hanks.
Hi, everybody, first of all. So nice seeing so many familiar faces. It's always fun to come back. This is my 6th year. But none of us are getting older, right?
She's now part of our Elvis family, right?
So I'm getting to see a lot of good friends again. And Kay, thank you for having me back.
Thank you for coming.
I hope everybody enjoyed that lunch. Man, that was good. I had a pulled pork sandwich. It was yummy. So if you didn't get one of those, go back and get it. Well, my story starts out a long, long time ago. I was raised in Maryville, Indiana, and I became Miss Indiana in 1964, which I was very proud of. And I had to go to California to compete for the Miss International pageant. While I was out there, Joe Pasternak was one of the judges. Now, Joe Pasternak did Elvis movies, and guess what? I was a huge, huge Elvis fan back there. So I kind of knew I wasn't going to win the contest because I was not the wholesome California girl look. So Miss California won that year, and then Miss Philippines went on to win the international title. But Joe Pasternak said, well, if you're really interested in movie work and that, come on back to California. So I came back to my state, packed up $300, and took my horse to California. Big dreams, boy, big dreams. You know, as Elvis would say, follow your dreams.
Right.
So the only thing I wanted to do was do an Elvis movie. I didn't care what I was doing or whatever, but I had an agent that was just crazier than all get out, and he was trying to get me speaking roles. But I got to be on a couple of the Elvis movies. I did Clam Bake with him. He was chasing me, thank you. He was chasing me, and Bill Bixby on a boat, so you can see us there. And then in Spin Out, I was dancing next to him. So I just wanted to be on the sets, like I said, and most of the time, I wasn't quite an extra, I was more of a dancer. But I did get a chance to get to know Elvis, and he did ask me out. I think I told you that story a couple years ago, and I said no. And
that was probably a first.
oh boy, he looked at me kind of strange, and I said, because I don't want you to break my heart. The girls are coming and going like a revolving door, and I don't want to be a part of that, you know? So he started laughing, and I said, I just want to be your friend. So we remained friends all through the years, and I was very fortunate to be able to go backstage when he appeared in Vegas and have a lot of wonderful memories of Elvis. I still think in my heart that he was the greatest entertainer and the greatest person that I ever met. Amen, right. So one of the things that was interesting, when I was out in California, at that time they had a place called the Hollywood Studio Club. And it was kind of like a YWCA, but you had to be involved in one way or another in the film business. So I went there, and for $25 a week, I would get breakfast and dinner, but during the day you had to be out trying to seek jobs in the studios. So one of my roommates was a gal by the name of Mary Ann Gordon. Does anybody remember who she was? She was married to Kenny Rogers, but she wasn't then. She was still a struggling actress. Anyway, she suggested I go on a blind date with this publicist because I had to get my name out there in the press, and he would be able to help me. So he called and said, I'll pick you up. Would you like to go to a concert? And I said, okay. Now, don't forget, I lived in Maryville, Indiana, and back then, there was nothing other than the Dick Bionde radio show that we listened to, all of us. Remember that? Yeah, that was a great show. So I said, okay, so where do we go out to Melodyland to see the Dave Clark Five? Now, I had never even heard of them, but this guy, we go backstage, and the publicist introduces me this big, tall guy who, as Irv said earlier, was the lead singer, so of course I had to fall for him, right? His name was Mike Smith, and we just connected immediately. He was just brilliant. So afterwards, he met us for a drink back at the Beverly Hills Hotel where he was staying. And the publicist, being the ding-dong that he was, went to the men's room, and Mike asked if I would like to go out. Well, I didn't say no. So we started up a relationship that lasted over the next few years. But he was on, I think, 7 world tours. I was trying to get my career going. So eventually we just kind of broke up. Never, ever any bad words or that. But we just kind of drifted apart because his parents had asked me to move over to England. And my mother said, no, I wasn't allowed to do that. Well, in those days, you listened to your parents. You know, back then, if you didn't, you had to stay in and you were grounded. Anyway, fast forward, 40 years later, I moved back to Indiana after living in California. I had all my dreams come true. I had met everybody I wanted to. I had succeeded. I did a world tour. I did a trip to Vietnam to entertain the USO. I did the Bob Hope shows. Thank you. That's one of the highlights of my career, to be honest. I really love going to Vietnam. Bob asked me to do a tour with him, and I said no, because unfortunately, I had already made plans with a guy by the name of Johnny Grant, who was the guy who did all of the induction on the Stars of Hollywood that you used to see. And Johnny's tour was for 3 weeks in Vietnam. And he was going to all the hospitals and also all the fire support bases. So I told Bob I couldn't go and do his tour. So he said, okay. So instead, he took me on to Houston a couple weeks later and crowned me Miss American Fighter Pilot, which was kind of fun. So did a couple other films. I Sailed to Tahiti on an all-girl crew. Dr. Goldfoot and the Bikini Machine, did a lot of commercials and everything. And so I was really almost kind of tired out by the time, you know, the 90s rolled around. So I decided to come back to Indiana. My mom was ill. So I moved back here. Well, a friend of mine who was helping me unpack noticed all these scrapbooks that I had of Mike and I, and said, oh, well, where is he? What's he doing? I have no clue. I'm sorry. I haven't spoken to Mike. Is he alive? I don't know. Well, she got in touch with him by some miracle, and the man that was running his fan club said, yeah, I kind of remember them, you know, being in the fan magazines together, etc. So they got in touch with Mike. Well, lo and behold, he remembered me. millions of girls later, he remembered me. So he started calling me, we got in touch, and we started up another relationship, but this time it ended in us getting married. So I moved over, thank you. He was the love of my life, he really was, other than Elvis. But I moved to Spain, and we were married for 8 years, and then he had a very unfortunate accident and was left paralyzed. But during that time, I was there at the hospital with him every single day, and he finally got out after 5 years and was going to be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, which is a huge honor. And unfortunately, Mike passed away right before the induction, so we did not get to attend. But I still have the trophy, and it's beautiful. It's a real, tribute to his talent. But Tom Hanks, the famous actor, inducted the Dave Clark Five into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And if you ever want to watch something really fabulous, he did the most outstanding interview about their talent, about how great they were. Well, being raised here in Indiana, we're taught to say thank you and please. So I felt it was my duty to write Mr. Hanks a letter and say thank you for saying those nice things. So Paul Schaefer, who was doing the Letterman show at the time, said if I wrote a letter, he would make sure Tom got it. Well, I wrote the letter, and guess what? I got 2 handwritten responses from Tom Hanks. Yeah, I was pretty jazzed, a kid from Indiana
Exciting.
getting 2 letters from Tom Hanks saying my husband was great. Wow, how cool is that? So then he appeared in New York in a play called Lucky Guy. So I wrote and I said, gosh, can I come back and just give you a big hug? And he goes, yeah, come on back. So that's the picture that's on your website, backstage after his appearing on Broadway. And he was just such a gentleman. He was really, really sweet. And I said, oh, Mr. Hanks, I just think you're great. Wait a minute, don't call me Mr. Hanks. I thought I was your friend. Call me Tom. Wow, wow. Pretty cool, pretty cool. So I always brainstorm. Unfortunately, brain never, ever stops. And did any of you see the Elvis movie that just came out? Oh, awesome. 7 times. Anybody higher on that one? How many? 18. I mean, unbelievable, wasn't it? That Austin. Oh.
It was wonderful.
You know what? Thank God he's not on this stage. I'd have to kidnap him. I really would. Anyway, I decided to write to Tom and tell him what a fabulous job he did, and what harm would it be if I asked him if he could contribute something for me to give for an auction for Special Olympics. So he wrote back, and guess what? He sent me 3 things.
We were so excited.
One of them is a poster that you see in the back there. That is the same poster that I have at my home right now, and it is autographed by Tom. I have all letters that authorize that these are all hand-signed and that they are originals. Then he also sent me a bust of Austin that appeared in the movie. And if you watch the movie, you can see him pointing in one scene where he's saying, oh, we're going to make teddy bears and we're going to do all these things. And that's one of the little statues he sent me. It's from the art department at Warner Brothers. So he autographed that for us. Well, movie memorabilia. Kay, how much is stuff like that going for on the internet?
I looked up, I saw Tom Hanks' autograph on a Forrest Gump poster that sold for almost $3,000.
If we could make that for Special Olympics, imagine what those kids could do with that. So hey, spread the word. Please spread the word. We've got to get some money in for this. I mean, for him to do that and send us not 1 item, but 3. And the 3rd item, see this basket here? Well, Tom sent us a journal with his stamped picture on it, okay? Now, I will say this, that he must have used it, obviously, because 2 pages were torn out, darn it. So we don't get to see what he wrote.
I was hoping we had some notes that he'd made.
Me
Or
too.
maybe stuff that he and Austin had talked about
Yeah.
making the movie.
But you know what? It was interesting because when Riley, one of our judges in Tom Lounges, who's done such a great job promoting Special Olympics in the event
How
here.
many people saw the nice article in the newspaper?
Anybody see that Thursday? There's one in the back, just one. Oh, he wrote a full-page article, pictures, the whole thing, talking about how fabulous Kay's doing this event. So again, big thanks to him. But when he was over at my house taking pictures, we noticed in the journal, Tom has got this thing, it kind of outlines it, and it says, let's see if this pen works. So he did write in it. But I've also got the letter that says, from Playtune, which is his company in California, to whom it may concern. This letter certifies that the journal was owned by Mr. Hanks and is stamped with his image. Now, this is a copy that they sent me from his office. The original is in the mail, but she wanted me to be sure and have this so that if you people do bid on this, you've got something that's really, really worth something, you know, in the future. The basket, we're calling it A Date with Tom and Elvis. We thought
This
that
is
was kinda
really
fun.
cool.
Yeah. Now, how many of you have seen all the Tom Hanks movies? I haven't. So Frank, one of our judges, purchased a couple DVDs, so those are in there of the Tom Hanks movie, plus the new Elvis movie is also included in it. And then Paul Schaefer did a fabulous benefit concert in New York for my husband Mike. And he taped it. It was supposed to go on Amazon, and we had a lot of orders, and then Mike passed away. So Dave Clark decided that no, unless we gave him $100,000, he didn't want us to sell it. So now that DVD is a collector's item because it was never allowed to be sold on Amazon. So that's in the basket too. I thought I'd stick that in there. So then we've got a bottle of wine, a Elvis blanket, thanks to Candy out there, that you can curl up in as you're watching the movies. Lots and lots of popcorn, candy, chips, crackers, and even, if you have little ones, some apple juice, just in case while you're drinking the wine, they'll have something.
That's a good idea.
Then there's a book written by Priscilla Presley and Lisa about the life with Elvis. In fact, I saw a copy of that book in the back here selling.
Elvis by the Presleys.
Yeah, yeah. And oh, by the way, she mentions the Dave Clark Five in her book there, that he and her and Elvis used to talk about them. I think that was my influence because I used to talk about who I was dating to him. Oh, and then the special journal that belonged to Mr. Hanks and the authorization. So it's really a great, great basket. And that's one item we wanted to share with all of you that we're going to auction off later. And hopefully, whatever money is raised, of course, goes to Special Olympics. The poster and the bust of Austin is on the internet. So if you go to...
Right, on our website or the Facebook page, we decided since we had these really special gifts from Tom that we would put those items on the website and have an online auction. So we'll start the auction tomorrow or tonight, like we always do. But also, besides the things that Charlie got from Tom, Mr. Hanks, my son contacted, or was in contact with a beautiful artist that's very famous that did that great picture of Elvis and Nixon. And I think the poster that I framed for that I got from my theater. And so the auction is going to be a little different tomorrow night. We'll have some few things that you'll be able to take home, but if you want any of these big ticket items, you'll have to go online and bid. And because we want to maximize Tom's wonderful gift, we're going to run it for at least a month till the end of November. So you'll have to keep track of your bid, and You can, go in, just like a regular auction in person, go in and overbid if somebody, overbid you. So
And
that's
then
what
the
we're going to
basket.
do. Because I didn't want to write a thank you note to Tom Hanks and tell him, thank you for your gifts. You raised $400.
Oh, he would die. He would die. But
So we
yeah,
wanted to maximize it because it is very special. And Charlie, I thank you. Your
You're
heart
welcome.
is such in a good place.
We're doing that tonight then? We're auctioning our basket tonight? Or
What do you think? It's up
yeah,
to you.
yeah, that's
So
for
this
everybody
one,
just
this one will
here.
be tonight.
That's not going online. That's going to be auctioned off here. It's for all of you
Yeah.
because you were nice enough to come to our event. So that is going to be only available to the people here. The other, we're opening it up to a lot of people, we hope.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
And Charlie's one of our judges, and we'll be introducing the other ones a little bit later. But I just can't tell you how much I appreciate all the work you did to help publicize the event. And hopefully a lot of local people came that maybe, because we still run into people here in Portage just like, oh, I didn't know you did that. So, okay.
The authorization that I got, that I told you about, that is included in the journal, whoever gets the basket tonight and wins the bid, would they please, please, please come up to me so that I can make sure that they get the original signed authorization that's in the mail from Tom Hanks' office in California. But because we had a holiday on Monday, everything was closed and they didn't get the letter out in time for me to, bring it here. But make sure I get your address and your name so that I can send it to you. But in the meantime, she did send me the copy of what she's mailing me. So that is included in there. Okay, thank you again.
Thank you. Let's hear it for Charlie Smith. Is that exciting? What a great, well, just to be a participant in the Miss America contest, well, that's fabulous. My sister was involved, and you might remember her because she helped with the contest for a few years. She did Miss America for Washington State, and I got to go to the finals one time, and of course as a little girl I was always looking up to Miss America pageant. That's a wonderful thing with their scholarship program and stuff. So thank you all. And